Welcome to the Morning Edition. Extra good Tuesday morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us here at the Digital Desk at Alaska's news source. Starting us off, we have meteorologist Aaron Morrison, who's going to give us a breakdown over what weather we can expect, as there's still snow on the ground, but the days are getting longer. Aaron.
We do have a first alert weather day in effect for areas of western Alaska as well as the interior. Of course, today the greatest impacts will be western Alaska, Norton Sound and the Yukon Delta through tonight. Those high winds will continue, gusts of 50 to 70 miles per hour, where we could see several inches of that snow accumulation, particularly out towards Nome as well as parts of the Yukon Delta. Then into our Wednesday, there is a first alert weather day for the interior. Heavy snow likely with 5 to 10 inches expected. This comes after we saw nearly a foot of snow through the weekend. So be prepared for that heavy snowfall to arrive, which will impact the morning commute across the interior. Now this morning, as we head out towards Nome, you can see visibility is greatly reduced. Temperatures have been warming, about 30+ degrees warmer than this time yesterday. And you can see those winds are out of the south-southeast. So those are our warming winds that continue to funnel in across western Alaska. So we've got 29 in Gamble, 25 in Bethel, and 3 degrees in Kotzebue. So you can see that that push of warmer air, which is warmer than here in South Central, where we're coming in at 15 degrees, even southeast, where we're seeing those temperatures in the teens and the 20s to start off this morning. There's that area of low pressure out towards Kodiak that's leading to some light snow accumulation through the night into this morning. Of course, the greatest impacts will continue to be across western Alaska. Well, we've got several weather alerts that remain in place, but there's that flow coming in on the southern side of that low, pulling in that moisture-rich air, as well as those winds, and that's where those temperatures have warmed nearly 30 degrees since yesterday, and you can really see that on that 24-hour change. 12 degrees warmer in Bethel, 26 degrees warmer in Coldfoot, all the way out towards Nome and Gamble, where temperatures are nearly 30 degrees warmer. So in addition to those warmer conditions, we've got high winds, we've got heavy snowfall that's going to continue throughout the day as it continues to build eastward. And of course, that snow out towards Kodiak, that will kind of taper off by mid-morning and early afternoon. So if you live up and down the west coast, be prepared for blizzard conditions to continue through tomorrow with winds of 60 to 70 miles per hour. Now the snow will lighten up tonight into tomorrow, but the winds will continue through the afternoon hours. And as that snow pushes east, we'll see those winds subside as it builds into the interior. Winds will die down to about 40 miles per hour, but that heavy snowfall will remain. And we'll also see some snow accumulation across southeast, with the chance that we could see some snow and rain building into southeast as we welcome in the close of this week. So we'll be watching that storm system bringing those first alert conditions across the state. When it comes to that snowfall potential, again, heavy amounts expected through western and southwest Alaska. This is in addition to what has already fallen. You can see several more inches to be expected. Heaviest amounts look to be out towards the Seward Peninsula, parts of Norton Sound, the Nulato Hills, and then as you head out towards western parts of the Brooks Range. But even through the Yukon Delta, we could see an additional about 3 to 5 inches of that snow accumulation. And you can see it as it builds eastward. Fairbanks in the interior will also tap into some of that heavy snowfall. So gusty winds remain with us today. If you live out towards Point Hope, Point Lay, Wainwright, Kivalina, be prepared for those winds gusting, extended gusts up to about 50 to 60 miles per hour. And that's going to stay with us through the day. So we're going to see persistent wind gusts that will lead to blowing and drifting snow and whiteout conditions. And again, those winds do subside through the day tomorrow. The blizzard warnings for many areas do expire by 3 p.m. So those warm conditions stay with us through at least your Wednesday. And then we do see the return to some colder conditions for southwest Alaska as we welcome in this weekend. You can see 4 degrees by Friday with overnight lows as cold as about 10 to 15 below. That brings us to the interior where we've got that first alert weather day for tomorrow. The winter storm warnings, 6 to 10 inches expected, with 12 to 15 inches in higher amounts. Meanwhile, the winter weather advisory, which includes areas south of Fairbanks, and then as you head out towards the Alaska Range or just north of the Alaska Range, 4 to 7 inches with gusts of 40 miles per hour to be expected. So dry today, snow arrives from the west overnight into tomorrow. This will impact your morning commute. And again, be prepared for the potential for double-digit inches, particularly through the central interior and west is where we're going to see some of that heaviest snowfall. And again, this is coming on top of the nearly foot of snow that we did see through the weekend. That's going to continue to add on to what has already been an above normal snowfall season for Fairbanks, even here in Anchorage, and Juneau seeing well above average, more than 40 inches above average for Juneau. So we'll be watching that first alert weather day into your Wednesday. Snow tapers off by Thursday. And then there's the return to some colder conditions as we welcome in the weekend. You can see a high of 7 below with overnight lows as cold as about 30 to 40 below. Adelmi?
All right, thank you, Aaron. And Alaska's premier distance interior sled dog race reached its conclusion, crowning a first-time champ. Alaska's News Source was at the finish line near Pikes Landing in Fairbanks for this full circle moment for this year's Yukon Quest Alaska champion coming home in first place. And I use the word home very intentionally. Let me get the volume up on this for you guys. That was Fairbanks' own Josie Shelley winning her hometown race in dominant fashion. Last year's runner-up finishing the 750-mile journey in 9 days, 9 hours and 11 minutes, crossing the line over 100 miles clear of her closest competition. And even despite that loneliness toward the front, for Shelley, this win was for her supporters.
This is our hometown race, and even though, I wasn't born in Fairbanks, Fairbanks is my home, and so it was really neat to see people, I had friends even in Rampart, I had, some friends that happened to just mush out during the race, so I guess I did see the mushers there, but just seeing people, and the excitement in all of the villages was really neat as well.
And a search for a snowmachiner in western Alaska has concluded with good news. As loved ones learned, the man has been rescued. Georgina Fernandez connected with the family.
The family describing that call as a sigh of relief as they found out their 31-year-old son was a step closer to coming home.
A happy ending.
31-year-old Grant Karen was rescued on Monday after he was reported missing on Sunday when he failed to return home from his Saturday snow machining trip. Alaska state troopers say Karen was picked up on Monday with minor injuries by the Alaska National Guard and brought to Bethel for evaluations. Search efforts for Karen, a group effort, including over 20 people from St. Mary's, Pilot Station, and Marshall, stepping up to help bring him home as they volunteered to search for him.
Because that's the way of our life. We grew up helping each other's, and even though they're from a different village, we'll still step up.
His mother sharing with us a joint family statement saying, "Your dedication, professionalism, and genuine concern for strangers restored my faith in humanity. I know that without your bravery, the outcome of his situation would have been very different." The family telling Alaska's News Source that they are thankful that their prayers were heard and everyone that stood beside them assisting in the search.
Everybody that sent prayers through social media, text messages, phone calls, everybody that's pulled together and seen this thing through.
And the family says this experience shows them that no matter how informed you are, things can still go south. Georgina Fernandez, Alaska's News Source.
Alaska senators are now scheduled to vote Wednesday on Mount Edgecumbe High School funding, virtually the same bill Governor Mike Dunleavy vetoed last summer. The vote comes weeks after some lawmakers visited the Sitka boarding school and called conditions deplorable, saying they saw rats, oil contamination, and decaying infrastructure. More than 100 students have withdrawn this year. If passed, the bill allows Mount Edgecumbe access to state grants from the Regional Educational Attendance Area Fund, known as the REAA.
It's a step in the right direction. There's many steps that have to be made on Mount Edgecumbe. The next is to meet with the department and talk about a implementation plan to move Edgecumbe forward.
And it's been a roller coaster ride for some families in the Anchorage school district who last Friday received letters their schools could close or reorganize. That comes as the district is facing projected $90 million deficit for the next school year. Lauren Maxwell breaks down the proposals ahead of public testimony.
Lake Otis Elementary families thought the fight was over when the school board voted not to close their school last fall. But with the added pressure of a huge deficit, the district is once again recommending the aging school, which is only about half full, close at the end of the school year. Under the recommendation, the building would go to a German immersion charter school. Low enrollment is also a factor in recommending the closure of Fire Lake Elementary in Eagle River for a second time. With about 200 students, the school is also about half full. The plan includes offering the building to Eagle Academy Charter School. The building itself is a key factor in recommending the closure of Campbell STEM Elementary. The district says the aging facility has maintenance issues, which resulted in lost instructional time this year. It wants to declare the building in excess of ASD's needs. And two other big changes: O'Malley Elementary School would lose its neighborhood program and operate solely as an alternative French immersion school. Neighborhood students would transition to Huffman Elementary. And Government Hill Elementary would operate solely as an alternative Spanish immersion school. If approved, students in the neighborhood program would transition to Inlet View Elementary next year. Lauren Maxwell, Alaska's news source.
ASD says public testimony will be heard at tonight's board meeting starting at 6 p.m. And Monday was a very important day as we recognized and honored Elizabeth Peratrovich. Peratrovich was an Alaska Native woman of the Tlingit Nation who was instrumental in the campaign against ending discrimination that plagued the Alaska Territory. And in doing so, she left a permanent mark on Alaska's history years before the civil rights era of the 60s. Despite being citizens fighting in World War II and paying taxes, Alaska Natives were discriminated against and restricted on where they could live and attend school. Peratrovich and her husband Roy fought for change and eventually witnessed the anti-discrimination bill become law.
Alaska Native peoples didn't have a voice and didn't have a relationship with the government in a way that they could express their culture and also just live in peace. And so I feel like this is why those factors drove Elizabeth Peratrovich.
It makes me really proud as an Indigenous woman to see such a leader before her time, number one as a woman and number one as an Indigenous person, to spearhead something like that. I feel a lot of pride in her. I feel like a lot of Indigenous women and men can look up to her and see that they can fight for their own rights.
On campus at UAA, students made buttons for social causes, participated in a Tlingit clan exercise, and watched a film on Peratrovich's life. And we will be right back after this very short break. When we come back, we'll be talking about Jesse Jackson, and we'll be talking about shootings in Indiana, Rhode Island, Maryland, and a trial for a father from a teen. The trial for a dad of a teen who was allegedly involved in a school shooting. We'll also talk about, we'll have John Thompson talk with Emma Wolfers, our Washington correspondent, on what is going on in the government that you need to know. Plus, we have Josiah Pike, who's speaking with our John Decker, our White House correspondent, John Decker, on what the president can and cannot do. So stick with us. We'll have those stories and a lot more when we get back. Welcome back in. Thank you so much for sticking with us. American civil rights activist Jesse Jackson passed away peacefully this morning, and that's according to his family. Jackson was battling progressive supranuclear palsy, a neurodegenerative condition diagnosed in April of 2025, according to the Rainbow Push Alliance. The disease is similar to Parkinson's, which Jackson publicly stated he was diagnosed with in 2017. Jackson was hospitalized in November of 2025. Reverend Jackson is survived by his wife, Jacqueline, their children, Santita, Jesse Jr., Jonathan, Yusef, Jacqueline, daughter Ashley Jackson, and grandchildren. He was preceded in death by his mother, Helen Burns Jackson, father Noah Lewis Robinson, and stepfather Charles Henry Jackson. And a wash of violence in the lower 48 on Monday. 3 separate shootings in Indiana, Maryland, and Rhode Island. Here's the latest on these developing stories. Police say they have arrested 47-year-old Kenneth Johnson hours after he was accused of shooting 2 Beech Grove police officers. Officer Brian Elliott, a 2-year veteran of the Beech Grove Police Department, died from injuries sustained in the shooting. Elliott and the other officer had, and this is Officer Brian Elliott. Elliott and the other officer had responded to a reported domestic disturbance when shots were fired. Johnson fled shortly after allegedly shooting the officers. Authorities say they learned of his whereabouts from a community member who noticed that Johnson looked out of place in a common laundry room area of an adjoining apartment complex in the area. And officials in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, say at least 2 people are dead after a shooter opened fire during a high school hockey game on Monday afternoon. Another 3 people are injured, and the shooting appears to have stemmed from a family dispute. The incident occurred at the Dennis Lynch Arena in Pawtucket. Officials say the suspected shooter was found deceased from a potentially self-inflicted gunshot wound. An investigation is ongoing. And 1 person is dead and 3 others are injured after a shooting late Monday in Baltimore. A heavy police presence surrounded the area near Mondawmin Mall. Officers responded to the scene and found 2 vehicles that had collided in the mall parking lot. 2 people inside those vehicles were suffering from gunshot wounds. As investigators canvassed the area, 2 more victims were located nearby. Multiple streets were shut down as detectives processed what officials described as an extensive crime scene. The investigation into what led to the apparent shootout remains ongoing. And opening statements have begun in the Georgia trial for Colin Gray. He's the father whose teen son is accused in the 2024 mass shooting at a high school outside of Atlanta. Prosecutors allege Colin Gray allowed his son access to a firearm and ammunition despite warnings that his son could harm others. The trial is part of a broader push to hold more people accountable for a school shooting, including parents and responding law enforcement officers. 2 students and a teacher were killed in the Appalachia shooting, and 9 other people were hurt. Gray has pleaded not guilty to the nearly 30 charges, including murder and manslaughter. The trial is expected to last about 3 weeks and started yesterday. Now, here we have our very own John Thompson, who's going to be speaking with our Washington correspondent, Emma Wolfers, on what is going on in Washington, what is going on in the government that you need to know.
Well, a partial government shutdown began midnight on Friday after Congress failed to come to an agreement over funding for the Department of Homeland Security. Alaska's news source Washington correspondent Emma Wolfers joining us now from D.C. Emma, when could this partial government shutdown end, and how is the shutdown impacting DHS?
Well, John, we don't have a clear idea yet, and that's because both chambers of Congress are out. They are on recess until next Monday, February 23rd. So it's unlikely we'll see a deal form until they're back here in D.C. So it could be another week. Now, there are multiple agencies under DHS. That includes TSA, FEMA, The Coast Guard, ICE, and Customs and Border Protection are continuing to operate mostly unaffected. That's because they're funded by billions of dollars from President Trump's Big Beautiful Bill, which was passed last year. So that means they can kind of continue to operate as normal, even though funding has lapsed. When it comes to the TSA, FEMA, and Coast Guard, all those federal employees are still required to come to work, but are currently working without pay. If this shutdown goes on for 5 days or more, we could see another 2,000 federal workers furloughed. Again, no real way to tell how long this will end up going on, but it's likely to be another week, which means these federal workers could start missing paychecks.
Well, last week, the Trump administration said it is ending the immigration enforcement surge in Minneapolis, but now the White House border czar, Tom Homan, says that a small security force is going to be staying behind. Emma, what more can you tell us there?
Well, as of Sunday night, Homan said 1,000 immigration officers had already left the Twin Cities area in Minnesota, and another several hundred would be leaving in the coming days. So this drawdown is definitely happening. When it comes to this small security force, Homan did not specify what small meant. He did say what this security force would be doing. He said they would be sticking around for a short period of time to act as security for remaining immigration officers in the state. He mentioned them protecting officers who are surrounded by protesters, or as Homan put it, agitators, when they are out conducting their business. Now, when it comes to, as I said, how long this security force could stay, we're not exactly sure, but it seems like the rest of this drawdown is happening pretty quickly. Homan also noted that immigration officers who remain in the state will continue to investigate the alleged fraud that's been happening in Minnesota. He said any officers that are leaving Minnesota will either be returning to their original assignments or will be reassigned to other stations.
Well, President Trump has said that if Congress does not pass a voter ID law, he will issue an executive order in time for the midterm elections. Emma, is this something that the president can do? Can he change the procedures for the election simply by signing an executive order?
Not really, John. He can try, but he's issued executive orders for elections in the past, and those have remained tied up in legal issues and in the courts. That's because the election clause of the Constitution is very clear. It leaves the power over the time and manner of elections and election conduct to the state legislatures. It also leaves the procedures of federal elections in control of Congress. So per the Constitution, the president in that office cannot take over and change elections. Now, President Trump has mentioned multiple election threats, including possibly federalizing elections, skipping or canceling the midterms altogether, and now the suggestion about voter ID law. This latest suggestion comes after the U.S. House narrowly passed the Save America Act last week. That's a proposed bill which would mandate states require proof of citizenship to register someone to vote and require a photo ID when voting at the polls. Now, even though that narrowly passed the House, it's likely going to face an uphill battle in the Senate, so it's not really expected to make it across the legislative finish line. That's why the president is now suggesting signing an executive order. But as I mentioned, this, if he signs it, would end up caught up in the courts in legal challenges, as the other election executive orders have been.
All right, Emma, and finally, the president says that his new Board of Peace will announce a $5 billion investment to rebuild Gaza. Do we know the details of this investment?
We don't know specifics yet, like which countries would be offering up which sums of money, but we're likely to learn those details Thursday. That's when the Board of Peace is scheduled to have their first meeting here in D.C. We're not sure who of the 20 or so member countries of the Board of Peace will be showing up to this initial meeting in Washington, but we do expect some. Now, President Trump says this $5 billion will be directed, as you said, to rebuilding Gaza. He also says member countries will be offering up thousands of personnel for internal stabilization efforts and security forces in the region. This $5 billion might not go that far. That's because the United Nations and the European Union estimate the total cost of rebuilding in Gaza at about $70 billion.
Alaska's news source, Washington correspondent Emma Wolfhorst joining us from D.C. Thank you very much, Emma.
Thank you.
And now we have our very own Josiah Pike, who's speaking with John Decker, who is our White House correspondent. We're going to be talking about the president's actions, and what he can and cannot do. So here we go.
Now, President Trump says if Congress doesn't pass a law to require voter ID, he will issue an executive order in time for the midterms. Joining us now is Alaska's news source, White House correspondent John Decker. John, you're also a lawyer. Can the president change the procedures for the election simply by signing an executive order?
The president could not unilaterally do that, and the reason has to do with the Constitution. An executive order does not have supremacy over the Constitution. Article 1, Section 4 of the Constitution stipulates that it is the states that have the power to determine the time, place, and manner of all elections. There is no place for the president to intercede and inject himself in this process. So if the president were to go ahead, follow through with that threat, to sign that executive order, it would be challenged immediately in the federal courts, and the president really would not have a constitutional leg to stand on in terms of winning that case.
Now, this partial government shutdown shows no sign of ending anytime soon. How has this shutdown affected the Department of Homeland Security?
Well, we saw with the last shutdown, which lasted 43 days, it ended in the fall, that initially there were no impacts on travel, for instance, at our nation's airports. But as that government shutdown wore on, there were indeed delays that happened at many airports all across the country. This shutdown began at midnight on Friday. So far, we're not seeing those kinds of massive delays at airports, but that could be the case as if this particular partial government shutdown drags on. As things stand today, the Senate is not due to come back from its recess until 1 week from now. So for the time being, the partial government shutdown will remain in place. And those individuals that work for agencies like the Transportation Security Administration, the TSA, they will not be getting paid during this period of time.
All right, now in political news, North Carolina Senator Tom Tillis says he will not support President Donald Trump's choice to lead the Federal Reserve until the DOJ has concluded its investigation into Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. Now, John, why is this vote of Senator Tillis so important?
It's so important because it's such a narrowly divided Senate, 53-47. That's the advantage that Republicans have right now. And it's very narrowly divided in the Senate Banking Committee. That's the committee that Senator Tillis sits on. He's a Republican, a very senior Republican on that committee. If the president does not have Senator Tillis's support for his nominee to succeed Jerome Powell, that nomination will essentially languish in the U.S. Senate. So we'll see whether some kind of compromise can be reached with Senator Tillis to get his agreement, his support for that nomination. He says the only way that the president will get his vote is if the DOJ ends their investigation into Fed Chairman Jerome Powell.
And finally, in foreign news, Secretary of State Marco Rubio gave a speech in Munich over the weekend that was aimed at sort of patching up differences with America's European allies. Now, what was the reaction to the speech from NATO?
Well, obviously it depends which NATO country you're talking to. They like the tenor of the speech, certainly compared to a speech that was given by Vice President J.D. Vance at this same Munich Security Conference last year. But they say ultimately the proof will be in the pudding. The proof will be in the actions taken by the administration. There have been some differences between the United States and our European allies on issues like the war in Ukraine and also the future of Greenland. And it's those differences that really have created divisions right now between the United States and our NATO allies. We'll see if this speech paves the way for a reconciliation between the United States and our European allies.
Right, Alaska's news source, White House correspondent John Decker. John, thanks very much for the good reporting.
Thank you.
And now we're going to take a very short break. When we come back, we'll be talking about the cost of beauty. Now, if you're coming here from the morning edition, you'll know this story a little bit because I did talk about it when I was talking about the morning edition extra. There's a story about your beauty products and products that you might even have in your own home, products that you use on a consistent basis, or not procedures, like products that are done on you, or styles that are done on you that influence your hair, that impact your hair health and things like that. So we're going to be talking about that, and we're going to be talking about the cost of winter in today's Watching Your Wallet, how expensive it is to live in winter, even though we can't really help it. So we'll have those stories when we come back, so stick with us. Welcome back in. Thank you so much for sticking with us. Popular hair straightening and smoothing products may contain chemicals known to cause cancer and other health issues. Our national investigative team found years of research and complaints showing potential issues with products marketed to people with curly and textured hair. Products still on the market, an issue that disproportionately impacts African American women. National investigative reporter Carice Jackman breaks down the chemicals in The Cost of Beauty.
It's a cost for beauty. That's what they used to say.
Talk to me about your journey, your hair journey.
I started getting perms or relaxers when I was in the 6th grade. If you let me tell it, I would get a perm every week because it had to be smooth, and I don't have that kind of hair. So as soon as it started curling up, keep us something right here.
Old ads show for black women, straight hair was a social beauty standard.
Hair so soft, silky, and free. Start with permanent cream relaxer,
which meant getting chemical treatments called relaxers, sometimes called perms in the black community.
I'm 68, so natural hair was considered to be naughty hair. It was a standard of beauty, imposed standard of beauty.
What made you stop?
My hair started getting thin in the top. Medical issues too.
What was the experience like whenever you would get your perms?
Oh God, in the beginning it was awful. My scalp would burn and had little miniature sores. I thought they were just part of the process.
That burn is an experience many African American women feel. Our National Investigative Team requested and obtained Food and Drug Administration documents showing hundreds of complaints. Our findings from coast to coast in the last 2 decades. Hundreds of people have reported concerning and horrific outcomes they believe were tied to chemical hair straighteners. We saw complaints of bald spots, hair loss, blistering, scars, even hospitalizations after applying to the entire head, chemical burns, and cancer diagnosis. The main chemical in question in many of these products is formaldehyde, which the FDA reports has been linked to eye problems, respiratory issues, and even certain types of cancer like ovarian.
Formaldehyde is one of the active ingredients that makes that product work and that makes your hair so shiny and slick and straight and stay that way for months at a time.
The FDA says formaldehyde and 2 related ingredients, formalin and methylene glycol, are some of the chemicals consumers should look for on labels.
When the liquid form of formaldehyde, sometimes marketed as methylene glycol, is in these products and gets heated up, it can release a significant amount of formaldehyde gas.
But there are other chemicals flagged by the government too. Our team analyzed around 100 products on popular online beauty supply websites and found more than a dozen listed products contain an ingredient identified by OSHA as one that can release formaldehyde when heated, like with flat ironing or blow drying.
We got those reports related to formaldehyde. There were a lot of them, a lot of women who experienced health issues after getting these treatments or giving these treatments.
Some women have gone to the courts to take action against companies who use formaldehyde in their chemical hair straightening products.
They're so prevalent that they even sell them at gas stations. We want the FDA to act.
But despite a national concern, the FDA has not banned the ingredients and as of now has missed its 5th deadline to propose a ban on formaldehyde products. Since 2024, we've reached out to the FDA for comment. A spokesperson told us that the proposed rule continues to remain a priority for the agency and that the FDA may adjust the publication dates of this and other proposed rules when appropriate.
We want these chemical hair relaxers to be taken off the shelves.
As women wait for a change in regulation, many are ditching the relaxers altogether.
But one thing I noticed, you're wearing your hair natural and you've got the continent on your shirt.
Yes.
So did that transition, did it help you get your sense of pride now?
So I'm going to be me in my dress and my hair, and it doesn't have to fit into the status quo.
According to the Environmental Working Group, around 80% of the more than 4,000 products marketed to Black women contain ingredients rated as moderate to high hazard.
Okay, and Carice, so many women with curly or coarse hair are impacted by this, but why does this impact Black women the most?
Right, and that's a very good question. You know, yes, curly-haired women and women with coarse hair do also appear in many studies when it comes to this particular subject, but it's the frequency of the use that Black women use for chemical hair straighteners traditionally that has made it potentially more dangerous and toxic for them. So many Black women would go and get a hair relaxer every 4 to 6 weeks, right? And then rinse it out. And it's because that's frequently being done over the past several weeks, up to several years, that has made it potentially dangerous and exposes them more to potential cancers as well. So that is why the issue is something across the board, but disproportionately affects Black women the most.
Okay, and the FDA has had multiple deadlines to ban these chemicals. What's been happening with the agency's plans?
Right now, they're telling us that they're looking into it, but as we've known for covering this for almost over a year, is that they've missed their 5th deadline for a proposed ban on formaldehyde products. And so for many consumer advocates, many people like the EWG who've been following this for several years, they're wondering, when is it going to happen? And so we've been following this. We've also been asking the FDA. They say they're still looking into this, that this remains a priority. But again, for many people, especially the women being impacted, they're wondering, when is going to be the time that this comes to the forefront? So it's something that we're also monitoring very closely.
This old house says while natural gas bills are projected to be down 5% in the South compared to last winter, electricity costs will rise. Kevin O'Connor, the host of This Old House, says they analyzed consumption rates for homeowners on their heating bills, specifically looking at electric and gas usage, which is the predominant way most of us heat our homes. He says the biggest takeaway, nationally, the cost of heating a home with electricity is projected to rise 4% from last winter.
4% may not sound like a lot, but it's a big share of homeowners' wallets, and it's a sizable enough increase in heating costs that people will feel it. And they're going to immediately be thinking about, what can I do about it?
O'Connor says there are some things you can do in the short term to help keep those costs down.
Air infiltration is the big culprit. What is that? That's air getting around leaky windows, underneath doors. So sealing those things up with good weather stripping can make a big difference. Putting a sweep on the bottom of your door to cut down on the air movement. Putting your sash locks, where the upper sash and the lower sash meet, to tighten them up can do a lot. Adding air stripping around air sealing with some weather stripping around both of those perimeters.
O'Connor says there are changes you can make quickly, maybe over a weekend if you're thinking about longer-term fixes to save money. He says those include adding insulation, replacing windows, upgrading doors, or having your heating equipment tuned up and tested. With this Watching Your Wallet, I'm Rachel DePompa.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for sticking with us, and apologies for my microphone not being on earlier in the last hit before the last time before the commercial break. My microphone died, but I put in new batteries, so we are all set to go. Thank you so much for being patient and for sticking with us. Now, before the United States could become its own country, militias needed to defeat a superior military force in Great Britain. As we celebrate America's 250th birthday, Washington correspondent Brendan Cullerton details a deciding battle in the struggle.
Yorktown went from being one of Britain's key ports in the 13 colonies to the site where they ultimately lost the Revolutionary War. Before the cannons fired, Yorktown was one of the most important settlements connecting Britain to the colonies.
The town of York was the second busiest port in all of Virginia. It was the main port of entry for goods coming in and out of the colony. We're very close in proximity to the then capital, which was Williamsburg.
Homer Lanier educates visitors at historic Yorktown about how it turned into a battlefield. Because it was a deep water port for large ships, British General Charles Cornwallis brought the military there on his way back from the Carolinas.
Decided to come back and encamp in the town of York along the river because he had sent word to New York for the British fleet to come to Yorktown to evacuate or remove him and his army from Virginia to go back north.
The Revolutionary forces decided to catch the Redcoats before they could evacuate or resupply.
General Washington would decide to move just about his entire army from New York to catch Cornwallis here in a trap.
American and French forces shut the British off on all sides of the town, and Lanier says one of the most effective battle plans was lining up 100 pieces of artillery to bomb British forces into submission.
There's an artillery piece lobbing or firing shells into the town of York and into the British earthworks about every minute of the day.
Lanier says after Yorktown, the British lost the stomach to fight, and the battle effectively ended the war.
They knew, it's, oh God, it's all over. They could not believe that this rebel force had defeated the greatest army on the face of the planet.
In Yorktown, I'm Brendan Cullerton.
And Washington, D.C.'s National Portrait Gallery used Valentine's Day to spread the love, hosting a day-long festival to commemorate the anniversary. Washington correspondent Katrin Asaf gives us a look.
We're coming back, we're doing it again. Do we understand? Yes.
Yorktown went from being one of Britain's key ports in the 13 colonies to the site where they ultimately...
Apologies, that video is not ready, but let me see if I can add it into our lineup really quickly. Okay, here we go.
The National Portrait Gallery in Washington, D.C. may be most famous for the collection of portraits of American presidents that sits on the second floor. But Saturday, they are celebrating America's 250th birthday by telling the stories of all Americans.
A crescendo of sound and movement. An energetic, impromptu dance party. Not the usual sights and sounds of the National Portrait Gallery, but somehow it fits right in.
And we try and use storytelling to get people excited about knowing our history and seeing ourselves in our history and seeing that our stories matter just as much as the portraits on the wall.
Saturday, the gallery held its 250th festival, a special rebrand of their typical President's Day celebration to fit the nation's birthday.
I'm just going to read some of them out.
Through guided tours, dance, music, and storytelling, Americans were invited to celebrate our stories, something the gallery's resident portraits do every day.
It's celebrating everyone, including us. We want people to see themselves in what we're doing today.
People like Daisy Zamora.
I have a big background in science and STEM, so it's nice connecting with somebody so fundamental to our history.
Using a Galentine's trip to see some of DC's most famous residents, including Benjamin Franklin. Not realizing in planning the stop, she was also adding her own chapter to America's 250 years.
Because you get to see what everybody has done for our country.
Proving every glance and every dance is fulfilling Saturday's purpose, celebrating all our stories and what makes us, us. In Washington, I'm Katrin Asaf.
When life throws a punch, you've got to know how to fight back. And the best tools to win: confidence, calm, and a clear head. Leah Kamana takes us to a gym in Oregon where kids learn lessons beyond the mat.
We're coming back, we're doing it again. Do we understand? Yes, sir.
We're trying to put this place right where the kids are, you know, where the kids need a gym and need access to this.
Now we gotta work our escapes.
10-year-old Jervy Womplu has been coming to Team Quest for 4.5 years now.
It's a nice gym. Everybody here is friendly, and then you're going to get a lot of burpees.
Connected to the gym through his school,
Now I gotta clear this bottom hook.
Womplu says training here has made a big difference in his life.
At first I was getting bullied, and then I got into fights. I started getting bad grades. I'm not getting into fights no more. I'm not getting suspended.
Come on, 1, 2, 1, 2.
While it may sound unorthodox, Father's Heart Sports believes combat sports can give kids self-confidence, develop better emotional control, and focus.
Ellis. Slide down. Slide down.
He's had growth in so many areas. His confidence mostly.
Betty Lynn's son, Ellis, has been attending Team Quest for 3 years.
It's just a really positive place for the kids, and it really allows them to grow within themselves to do things that maybe they didn't think that they could do.
Emilio, nice power, buddy. Anything in life, when you start something new, it's gonna be a little scary. You're gonna be a little nervous, and you got to jump in and try things, and you got to be bold. You got to be courageous, and those are the things that martial arts teaches you.
Okay? Yes, go!
Currently, 64 athletes in kindergarten to 5th grade are supported through Father's Heart Sports, as well as several teens. And Coach Matt knows that need is only going to continue to grow.
Funding's a big deal. So a lot of these kids don't have money for gloves or uniforms, and then they start going to tournaments. $100 entry fee, you know.
So right now, Father's Heart Sports is looking for support and partnerships.
Here's an opportunity to help some kids get a chance to train martial arts and totally transform their lives and change their outcome in the future.
Coach Matt knows firsthand how martial arts can transform one's life. Originally from outside of Oregon City, Linlin picked up wrestling in high school and took it all the way to the 2000 Olympics, bringing home a silver medal. He then went on to become a professional MMA fighter and coach of the 2016 and 2020 U.S. Olympic wrestling teams.
All the way up, keep that hand out. My favorite thing about seeing that is seeing these guys that came in here, they were nervous, they were timid, they were scared, and they get on the mats, they try it, and then they fall in love with the sport. They stick here for, you know, a decade or so, and then all of a sudden they're adults and they want to come back and coach and give back because it changed their lives.
Those like Carl C.J. Orchard. He started training at Team Quest when he was 5.
I like watching the kids go through, again, what I had to, and being the coach and helping them push through what they have to.
Make sure that jab's nice and long.
Much like his coaches did for him.
Having a program like this is important because it gets kids off the street and away from other stuff. Like, outside, we're not exactly located in the best area in Portland. So it gets kids off of those streets and out of the gangs and other stuff going on and into a disciplined area where they can learn from their actions.
And while we're talking about sports, let's get a check-in on Winter Olympics medal count total and see where things rank currently. Now, as of 5:30 a.m., Norway remains firmly at the top spot with 12 golds and 28 total medals, while the U.S. has moved back into third overall once more with 6 golds and 19 medals overall. Things are really progressing in the Olympics stage. Now we're going to take another very short break, and I promise it'll be a very short break, so stick with us. When we get back, we're going to be talking about the Anna for Alaska doll. Very exciting things. We're going to be talking about a newspaper delivery man. Yes, they're still around. They're still around. And we're going to be talking about Lunar New Year. So stick with us. We're going to have some very fun stories coming up. Welcome back in. Thank you so much for sticking with us. Now, we've all seen the damage from former Typhoon Halong, but there are scars that we don't see. Danny Tompkins shows us how a family from Florida is helping evacuees heal.
Healing is coming in an unexpected way through a doll named Anna. Now, this isn't the official Anna, but similarly to Anna, she's wearing a traditional cussbuck, and the real Anna comes with a pet husky. In Nightmute, 15 homes were destroyed, 35 students evacuated.
I mean, people lost everything. That surge came in, and it came in quick. People didn't have an opportunity to grab things.
Thousands of miles away in Florida, Angela Tilsher heard about it and knew she had to help.
When I saw it, broke my heart immediately. I thought to myself, wow, we were just saying we were going to have to take a break. What are you doing, Lord?
Each Anna doll is customized to look like the girl receiving her.
I need water bottle. What happened to the water bottle?
Matching hair, even glasses.
When they saw the dolls, they didn't know what to initially do because they were so surprised that the doll looked like them.
I know even myself as a person of color, you know, when I was little, to see a doll that looked like me, you know, it was like everything. It was like, oh, wow, she looks like me.
When the dolls arrived at the Nightmute school, each had a girl's name on it.
I mean, their eyes were as big as, like, you know, saucers, and they were super excited. And they just couldn't believe that this big old doll was just for me. And they said, I can keep it? Yes, you can keep it.
You could fake cut it.
It's called Anna Club, where girls process trauma through play.
And you could hear the kids saying, oh no, what if another typhoon comes? You know, and they go, oh, well, we'll do this, and we could camp out, and we could stay here, and we'll be safe here.
The Tilshers have sent more than 600 dolls to disaster zones, all free.
We wanted them to know is that somebody is caring about them, right?
30 more dolls shipped to Western Alaska this Friday. Deborah says the weekly Anna Club play sessions will continue, giving these girls a safe space to heal. Danny Tompkins, Alaska's news source.
And it's a moment that most young athletes dream of, which is scoring the game-winning basket, touchdown, or goal in the state championship game. And while our Athlete of the Week achieved that dream on Saturday, he used the heroic moment to highlight his teammates, as Sports Director Jordan Rodenberger reports.
It's the final period of the state championship hockey game. The score is tied 0-0, and neither team's giving up an inch of ice. A trophy and an undefeated record is on the line, and the game needs a hero. That's when South's Oliver Zuber stepped out of the phone booth and onto the ice with his cape. Scoring the game-winning goal to lift the South Anchorage Wolverines to the top of the Alaska high school hockey landscape. The junior was in the right place at the right time to deliver in the big moment.
I wasn't supposed to be there, but the puck popped out right to me. I got lucky, buried it, and I mean, it was everybody. It was a team effort.
A moment that may not have happened without the performance of goaltender Jaeger Hulskoder, who made 22 saves in the shutout victory.
He's been lights out all year. All the credit to him. I mean, we couldn't have done it without him, so.
A moment that was earned and celebrated by the entire team.
Well, I was thinking about celebrating with the fans, but the team, they've been there the entire time, so just... I don't hate you, So, it was the boys we did it with, so they deserve to be celebrated with.
A moment that forever stamps South as the 2026 undefeated state hockey champions. Jordan Rodenberger, Alaska's news source.
How exciting is that? And now for our newspaper delivery man story. For 20 years, Joe McKenzie hasn't just delivered newspapers. The Bismarck man has delivered smiles too. And now at age 85, he's making his final route. Jody Kurzman introduces us to the man who turned a paper route into lasting friendships.
Joe McKenzie's day starts long before the sun comes up. 5 days a week, he's got 100 newspapers to deliver. He's been delivering papers on this route for the past 20 years. Joe was 65 when he started delivering the Bismarck Tribune. He wanted to get some exercise and earn a little money. He got something even better. Joe made some pretty great friends along his paper route.
Good morning.
Friends like Jim and Roger.
He's been here pretty much the last 20 years, through rain, sleet, over the snowbanks, on the ice, in the rain. Just the most dependable newspaper carrier you would ever want.
Roger is an early riser and often meets Joe at the door.
And if I don't come to the door, he often will write little notes on my newspaper.
Just developing a friendship.
It's those friendships Joe says he'll miss the most. Saturday will be his final paper route. At age 85, Joe has decided it's time to sleep in a little and maybe let someone else bring him the morning paper. In Bismarck, I'm Jody Kurzman, reporting for your news leader.
Now, when Joe delivers his final newspapers, he plans to celebrate with a nap and might work on a puzzle, too. Lunar New Year celebrations kick off today as the Year of the Horse begins. Billions of people worldwide will join the 15-day Spring Festival. It's widely considered the most important event of the year in China and Chinese communities around the world. Celebrations vary depending on the country or region, but there are a few common traditions. Some of them include a big dinner with family, cash gifts in red packets for kids, and deep cleaning the home to get rid of bad luck from the past year. The horse is one of 12 Chinese zodiac signs represented by animals in the Lunar New Year calendar cycle. And the most dramatic type here is, sorry, I got confused. This UPS driver here from Connecticut is just trying to do his job and deliver some packages, but these turkeys want none of his deliveries in their neck of the woods. You can see the poor driver sprinting from the door to his van, then off again to another delivery in the same group of homes before sprinting back to his van again to avoid the little terrors. I mean turkeys, not terrors, turkeys. The video was captured by a resident that thought she heard neighbors fighting and went to investigate to find the driver having a hilarious time of it. And we are glad she did so we could enjoy this ourselves. Take a look at that. He sprints from his van to the house, makes his delivery, then sprints back, trying to make it back before the turkeys get to him. And you can see them, they're so close. He was so close. He was like just 1 second away from getting pecked by these turkeys. And that is so funny. And that wraps up the Morning Edition Extra for this Tuesday morning. Thank you so much for joining us and for starting off your morning with Alaska's news source. Whether you watch the Morning Edition and the Morning Edition Extra, we thank you for starting off your morning with us. And we hope that you'll do it again tomorrow too. So we'll see you again at noon for the latest in news, weather, and more. Have a good day.